What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down some big catalysts coming out for next week, what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I break the double information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks, and the offer ends in just about one day from now. Anyways, for the market, I just want to talk about how things are looking going into next week. As a quick reminder, I just want to make it very clear that for Monday, we have Waller from the Fed giving a speech and a couple of bill auctions. But Monday is going to be very, very minor. Nothing too crazy is going on then. For Tuesday, we have Bowman giving a speech alongside more housing data and manufacturing numbers. Once again, nothing too insane, nothing that's going to cause the market to go absolutely berserk. But it is worth noting, if anything, for Wednesday, we just have like home prices, nothing too crazy. Thursday is when we have initial jobless claims and GDP numbers. That's going to be quite important, might cause some volatility. And besides that, the main thing is going to be on Friday when we have the PCE data report coming out. This is going to be very, very important for not only inflationary data, but the Fed's policies. So I can't wait to see what this suggests. And we'll see what this causes, at least for the markets going forward. I also want to note that for Friday, it's going to be the last trading day of the month of June for 2024. June 2024 is also going to be the end of Q2. So Q2 is going to be coming to an end, and that's going to transition us back into July, which is going to be the start of the next earnings cycle and the end of Q2. Generally, when we end quarters, we do tend to see some interesting volatility. So we'll see what this leads to, at least for us moving forward. For other factors involved in the markets, I just want to call out that we actually have FedEx announcing its earnings next week on Tuesday. We have others out there like General Mills, not to mention Nike on Thursday. And that's going to be very important, at least for these stocks. And then soon the earnings calendar is going to get loaded with even more of these stocks as we approach the week after in the following 2 weeks. So that's going to be important too. Um, Looking at the fear ingredient index right now, the market is more on the fear side. We're still seeing some more sellers stepping in. The market has been extremely greedy relative to the 125 daily moving average. That's also something that's worth noting. I just want to make it very, very clear that greed is what's making up the majority of sentiment. On top of this, the puts and call option positioning is quite greedy. We're actually seeing this on a bit of a downtrend as we're starting to see once again more calls essentially being closed and more puts being held. So that's something that's worth noting. Will we see this kind of spike a bit as puts start getting bought again? I'll be watching it. It is spiking just a teeny bit right here. It's going up a bit. So we'll wait and see. The VIX is also approaching a neutral phase right here as we're still in the 13s, but we haven't really broken the 50 daily moving average yet for a bigger move. So we're still waiting for that. So what's going on with the next week? What is my personal opinion? Right now, SPY is range bound, but I do want to call out the possibility of a change in market structure because SPY is showing signs that it's starting to decline now. Because before, like I said, SPY was making higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, pushing up very nicely. Now we're starting to decline a bit. And we have a bearish looking channel developing. If we do retest liquidity here, we'll be watching to see if we kind of like break this resistance around 545.8. If that breaks, we have this gap to fill all the way down towards 547. And if we end up losing support all the way down here towards 544, we'll be dipping all the way down to 542. That's where we have this nice looking imbalance. So I'll be watching this very carefully. I'll be watching to see how this ends up developing. And you can see on the 4 hour, we're looking a lot more bearish right here. I'm going to be watching to see if we establish a lower high or not. Do we get a little breakouts to fill this gap and then we start dipping lower? Or do we just break down from here? I'll be waiting very patiently just to see which way we break. The reason why I'm kind of indecisive, though, is because we've been kind of range bound for this entire day. So we have to wait and see, do we get that break or not? So be very patient, and that's going to determine which way we end up going. For Bitcoin, we're also selling off a bit. You guys can see we're on a bit of a downtrend on Bitcoin. We have resistance currently around the 64,000 area. We have support at about 63,500. You can see this downtrend has continued to establish, showing some weakness. For other factors, we also have Nvidia. Nvidia has a bit of a falling wedge-like structure that's developing. And I just want to make it very, very clear that with this dip that's coming, we have basically 125 as support, not to mention 122. We also happen to have this resistance around this 129 area. So we're on a very, very strong looking downtrend here, but we haven't lost 125 as support yet. So I'll be watching to see which one we end up testing. We have 128 as resistance and 125 as support, and that's going to be very important for how things end up continuing. But that's going to be key. If we end up losing the support, we'll be dipping lower, and then we could be coming down to fill more gaps. So I'll just have to wait and see. On top of all of this, for Tesla is trading kind of like within a range right here. We have this resistance around this 183 area, and we have support currently at this I'm sorry, we have supported 180, and then we have resistance at 183. Excuse me, guys. We're still stuck within this range for Tesla, but it is showing some life that it wants to actually kind of push higher because we have a nice looking, not only an accumulation structure, but this kind of resembles a nice looking amount of buyers kind of defending it, and we have a nice bullish wedge that's kind of forming. So I do see another cup and handle like structure developing. So I am seeing some life in Tesla, especially when you zoom out and we go to the 4 hour time frame. Historically, Tesla loves to run during this month. And when you zoom out all the way like this, you guys can see we have a nice inverse head and shoulders. This does suggest that upside is a strong possibility for the stock. This whether this continues will depend on deliveries. That's going to be coming out in about 1.5 weeks. But so far, so good from the stock. For the QQQ, the 4 hour is showing some weakness. It depends on how we end up holding up relative to the 480 area. We are above our uh, 20 EMA. If we lose that, we'll be looking for a dip all the way down to 478. If we hold this, we could look for a little rebound first to 482 and then move back down. So that's going to be very important for how things end up continuing. On the 1 hour time frame, we also happen to have a lot of these levels that are very, very key. We've been shuffling between 179 as support and also 482 as resistance. So we're kind of stuck for now. I'm going to give the QQQ some time to really develop. I could be looking for a little rebound first, though. I do see like another sign of liquidity being grabbed here. So I think we might try to push a bit higher towards 482 all over again. We'll be watching to see if we get a rejection from there or not. For Aapl, Aapl is on a bit of a downtrend right here as well. We have a nice kind of like double top like structure, and we are continuing to fall. So make sure you watch the support around 206. We also happen to have this resistance around this 210 area. Because we're falling, I think there's a strong possibility of even more downside, and Apple's not looking that great. Now, I think we might dip down to fill this gap down here, fill this imbalance, and test our 200 EMA. Then we'll be watching to see if Apple gets a temporary bounce before anything else. We could just establish a lower high off the bounce before we continue lower. The trend still remains bearish for Apple, so just be very, very mindful of that. But with that being said, guys, I'm not going to go over everything since it is Friday evening. Amazon has a nice accumulation structure. Nice cup is forming. We have this support to be watching for around 188. We'll watch and see if this holds. If we do hold this, we could try to bounce. If we lose this, we'll be dipping all the way down to lower levels where this imbalance happens to be at 187. So I do see potential for this to kind of like dip a bit before it tries to go higher. But there is a nice cup that's forming on Amazon, so I'll be watching for that. For Meta, we're on a bit of a downtrend right here. Make sure you watch resistance around 496 and watch support around 490. I see a risk of this dipping lower. It could kind of pop and drop lower as a strong possibility. There's weakness on Meta. For Microsoft, we're actually trying to push higher. We have this 450 resistance. We'll have to see if this could break or not. This is actually approaching some new highs. If it breaks this, we'll be looking at 452. So there is potential in that. For Google, we're also holding up very nice. We got a nice looking double top like structure. But just to be clear, there's this trap, which was the head and shoulders. I did give you guys a warning about that. And this didn't end up playing out as we broke this resistance. So it is looking more bullish as we're trying to make higher highs and higher lows. And we could continue to push all the way up to the mid 180s. So I see a lot of potential in this. For a few more, we also have GME. GME is on a bit of a downtrend right here, showing some weakness. We could be dipping all the way down to the 22 area. I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case and if we get a bounce from there, but I do see a risk of some downside. And also for AMC, I think that we have this gap to fill all the way down here in the low fours. So there's a very good chance that that's going to likely end up coming down. So that being said, I want to make it very clear that there's some weakness on the charts, and I think that we have to watch and see how things kind of continue from here. But we have to be very, very open-minded for these new developments and watch and see how things kind of continue. But just to be clear, a lot of stocks are in ranges. Give them some time because today was a very boring day with all the option expirations because we had quadruple witching. So the market was just trading sideways within a range for the most part. This suggests to us that there's going to be a big move next week, but we're just going to wait and see which move the direction happens to be. But just know that the overall trend of the market is starting to favor downside a bit more. So watch and see if you get a little pop and then a drop afterwards, or if we just continue to fall in this bearish trend. But the downside is looking stronger, at least looking at the charts thus far. All right, guys. So I'm going to keep this video very short and simple. I will see you guys again tomorrow in the afternoon. Until then, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Have a very happy Friday. Enjoy the weekend that's coming up, and peace out.